coming at you with a live, in real time-ish vlog of reading Daisy Jones and the Six. Me for the first time.
I'm rereading it, and fun fact, this is the first book I've ever annotated. Well, like right now. I haven't annotated this before, but for my reread, I thought it was only
fitting.
Yeah, to just go ahead and
Emmalynn has
annotate
the OG cover. I have the show cover. We bought this like the day it came out because we wanted to do this video. So we're like, well, we're going to get one of each. So here we are.
Here we are.
So this vlog will have spoilers. So if you haven't read the book and you don't want to know what happens in the book, maybe don't watch this video. But if you have read the book or you don't want to read the book and you just want to watch this show, we'll give you a nice little recap of this book as we go along. So, yeah.
Acting like I haven't started this.
Emmalynn's been trying to get me to read this book for like probably 2 years.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like she's not going to like it as much as I do, but I appreciate it for the decade it's in alone and just how real it feels. Like, Taylor Jenkins Reid, her new, like, I don't know, almost era, like, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Malibu Rising. This book, it's like none of her characters are super likable, but she doesn't try to make them that way. Yeah. But they're still, like, character-focused stories.
Which makes them more realistic.
Yeah.
And maybe that's her, like, what she's striving for is just to be more relatable.
Also, I love how one of her characters, Mick Riva, is in this book, Seven Husbands, and Malibu Rising. Like, that is just cool to me. It makes it seem so real.
Yeah, like she's created a world where there's some overlap.
It's good. It's good.
Okay. Well, we're gonna cue it on over to some additional footage of reading, and then we'll talk about what we've read so far when we get there, right? Because we totally haven't started yet.
No, these tabs, I just had a feeling I would like
just
these
blindly
things.
put them on.
I just wrote with my eyes closed.
Okay, so we're going to dive right into what we have read so far. We both are
on page 48.
Yeah, well, it actually like skips to page 54, I think. Or no, that's right, 50. Yeah.
Page 50, which is starting the third
debut
part,
yep.
I believe, which is, yes, debut. I love the timestamps.
So
that also makes it feel real to me.
There are timestamps in the book that read as like sections or chapters, I guess, kind of. So this is my first time reading the book, Emmalyn's second. One thing that like messed with me mentally, like I know this story isn't real. I know that, okay? I know it. But her author note at the beginning just really messes with you mentally to make you think this is real. I mean, the way she writes the author's note is like, these are interviews and research that has been conducted, and these are actual stories. Like, it seems so real. It is crazy.
Especially probably as someone who listens to podcasts a lot.
Yes.
And it's in that
Yeah, it seemed like a disclaimer almost. Like, what you're about to read, the names have been changed, but this story is real. And I'm like, it's not real, right?
Yeah,
right?
I had
For
that.
sure.
I had that when I first read it. Like, with all the lyrics in the back, I was like, you're telling me these aren't real songs? Are we sure? Like, are we sure these aren't real songs?
Okay, so let's just talk about what we've read so far. So the beginning of the book starts out talking about Daisy Jones, kind of her life, her upbringing specifically. So she's the daughter of a famous painter and a famous French model. And so her parents are just, like, very invested in themselves and their life and kind of this, like, luxury living. And so she's just kind of, like, out fending for herself at a very young age. I think it starts out when she's 14. And she, like, moves out of her house and goes and lives with this adult woman.
She's
right?
19. Her name is Simone. She's a disco star. Aspiring disco star.
Yeah. So she's kind of already, like, surrounding herself with musicians. What else? They're already at age 14. She's exposed to, like, nightclubs, drugs, alcohol, all of those kinds of things. So she kind of, like, because she starts surrounding herself with those people, they just kind of start accepting her, even though they know that she's only 14. They just kind of, like, let her into their lifestyle, I guess you would say. So that's kind of interesting. So she, like, moves out with Simone, lives with her for a little bit.
Simone's, like, record label dropped her. So then Daisy moves back in with her parents, and she walks in. She's been gone for years. She's, I think, 17 at this point. Simone made her go to high school, get a diploma, and her mom is just like, hey, we got a new couch.
While you were gone. And like, that's all she cares about.
For years.
And then she just goes back to talking on the phone like, well, while you were gone, we got a new couch.
And we see her just kind of start to date all these famous people, and they use her for her talents.
And her, even, like, her songwriting.
Yeah. And then eventually, one of the guys she's dating convinces her to get on stage with him, and then she sings with him. And that's kind of where it ends from her perspective. Mm-hmm. We haven't had her perspective for a while because we're following the upbringing of the band now.
But her going on stage kind of starts opening doors for her, and she does get a record label mm-hmm. from that. And that's kind of, like, where it stops.
She wants out of her contract, though, because they don't like her songs.
She doesn't care so much about being famous for singing as she does for her songwriting. Like, that's more of her passion. So if she can't be famous for her songwriting, then she doesn't want to be famous at all. So because they won't let her use her own songs, she thinks she can just rip up her contract and be like, I'm done. And they're like, that's not how this works. Like, you're still obligated to your contract. So that's kind of like where her perspective ends so far, where we're at. And then we pick up with
Billy and Graham kind of just starting, like, this garage band.
They're brothers.
They're the Dune brothers. They had a very absent father. They never knew him. And so they grow up kind of poor, but they both know they love music. Eventually they get a small band together, pick up a gig at a wedding where they actually spot their dad, and then he meets...
Like, their dad doesn't even, like, recognize them. Like, they're playing at this wedding. Their dad is there dancing with this, like,
teenager.
much younger girl. I don't even know if she's a woman. But, like, they're playing at this wedding, and their own dad doesn't even recognize them, which is incredibly sad and heartbreaking. I can't even imagine how that would feel.
Yeah. And then there's a girl just kind of working at the wedding. Her name's Camila. Right? Mm-hmm. I keep saying Camille. Billy is instantly like, if you date me, I'll write you a song. And then they get together. And they're just like, everyone in the band that's a guy is like, Billy, you're so lame. You have a girlfriend. You can't do all these things with us. But he sticks it out with her. And then they eventually bring on Karen, who is their keyboard player. And her and Camila have a really good friendship. Mm-hmm. She's just really entertaining to me.
Karen is kind of like the
mom, almost.
Yeah, she's
her and
like
Camilla.
the voice of reason. I mean, she kind of like lives it up too, but she's still like the most grounded out of the bunch. Is funny too because like once they get a record deal and they decide to call themselves the Six, like the manager or whatever is like trying to get her to dress like more provocative and wear low cut shirts, and she was like, no. I'm not doing that. So, she didn't.
Also, but I'm just very excited for her character specifically to have her time to shine in the show because, you know, just as a keyboard player in a rock band, you don't really think of her as, like, a spotlighted character, but she is.
Good.
And she's important.
As a keyboard player, she should. As she should.
But then they get a record deal. They move to LA, and before that, Camilla and Billy break up. They move to LA, and he's like, no, I can't do this. I got her. He's like, I got a record deal. Would you marry me? Or he's like, would you marry me if I got a record deal? And she's like, you got a record deal? And he's like, that's how I knew. Let's get married. So she moves down. They don't get married right away.
But she moves there.
She moves there. They record songs, put out their first album. And right before they leave on tour, Camilla's like, I'm pregnant. She found out. And so then they get married.
And like a night ceremony, like all the bandmates like just randomly start decorating things. Like they're putting tinfoil in the trees. They call up like a minister in the middle of the night and we're like, hey, can you come do this before we go on tour? That's pretty funny. I think they were all like
probably
stoned.
Yeah.
Decorating the tree with tinfoil, but
Karen's
there's like
idea.
one picture of their wedding and their heads are cropped out because the guy that took the picture was like
out of his mind.
Yeah. So that was interesting.
But it still is just like, this is so real, right? I just can't not picture everyone from Fleetwood Mac and like
Living in the same house.
Yeah.
Like just party 24/7. Living like...
It's very interesting.
Yeah, so then they go on tour, and, like, immediately upon going on tour, Billy starts, like, really spiraling out of control. Like, he's drinking, doing hard drugs eventually, and, like, forgetting his song lyrics on stage, and it's just, like, a whole mess.
I mean, even his brother is more of the partier compared to him, and he's like, you gotta cut it out.
Yeah. Like,
can't
you
do
gotta
this.
tone it down.
And Billy basically convinces himself that he wants Camilla to leave him because he's too scared to be a dad because he had no dad. And she shows up.
Well, also, like, Karen knows what's going on, and so that's putting her, like, in a weird position as a friend of Billy's and a friend of Camilla's to, like, know that he's messing around on her and she can't tell her. So Camilla, like, asks Karen, should I come? And she's like, no. Stay where you are.
So she shows up.
So she shows up.
I love Camilla. I think
And
she's
what does
hilarious.
she find? He's in the midst of messing around on her when she finds him.
Yeah,
so.
and she's like, you think you can find anyone better than me? You're done. She's like, you have until this November 30th. Her baby's due date is the 1st of December. And, you know,
she's like, you
after
can live
that,
it up until then, but on that day, like, you're gonna man up and get your act together, basically.
So he then also convinces himself that the more he drinks, the more he does drugs, the more it'll be out of his system.
Yeah, and he's just
by
gonna be
the
like,
time.
okay,
Yeah,
I'm good to go now. Like, it's November 30th. I'm quitting.
And everyone's like super concerned. So I can't remember who it was.
Well,
I
they're
feel
all
like it was Graham.
They're all like, as the date is getting closer, they're all like getting more anxious and nervous. Like, what's gonna happen when it gets to November 30th and he's still like going hard at it? So it's like they're all kind of just waiting on pins and needles to see what's gonna happen. And then
I believe it's Graham calls up one of their lead engineers, I think it was, like their producer. I can't remember if it was the producer or the manager. But he's like, Teddy, you gotta come down here and handle Billy. Well, then he shows up and he's like, Camilla's in labor. I think it's like November 28th at this point. So, after Camilla's been in labor, she has a baby. She expects Billy to walk in the hospital, and here comes Teddy, her husband's like manager or whatever. And she's like, okay, tell Billy he can go to rehab or he can get it together right now. So, he goes to rehab. And then, I think he's there for 60 days. And then,
so he doesn't see his daughter for her first 60 days of life.
And then, at the end of those 60 days is kind of when the part ends, and Graham and Camilla and Billy's daughter Julia, she brings him to meet her at the rehab facility, and that's how
he's like, I'm rededicating my life to my wife, to my daughter, like I'm gonna make her proud. I never could have been proud of my dad, so I'm gonna give my daughter that chance, basically. So
I love that this early on we already have a redemption, though.
Hopefully.
Instead of just dragging.
Hopefully he doesn't disappoint me, because I gotta say, I'm disappointed in my man Billy so far. And I told Emmalynn, when I watched the trailer, I was like, if Billy cheats on Camilla with Daisy, I am not going to be happy about that. No, I'm not. But now he's already cheated on her with all these random groupie girls, so I'm already disappointed. And we're only 76 pages in.
It's so weird, like, people talk about the culture now, but the culture now is the same as the culture then.
While they were recording their album, the like manager and the producer was having, you know, like people bring in lunch, people bring in dinner, and they were bringing in like laced cookies so they could like eat these laced cookies and then get like, you know, amped up to write good songs, you know? So it's like whatever they needed to do to be successful. It's kind of like, it reminds me of the Elvis movie a little bit. Mm-hmm. Like how his manager, even though Elvis is like having health problems, like whatever you need to do to get that man on that stage, like that's what you do. You don't like take his health into consideration. You just get him on stage and get him to perform.
And the fact that was so normal.
Yeah.
Is crazy.
It was just like highly normal and acceptable. Like it was a social norm that everyone was doing the drugs, so
it's crazy.
I don't know how they live. Like I don't know how, like it's crazy to me. I mean, I know this isn't true, but like even in comparison, like all the things that he's done in just like a matter of months and he's still alive. Like if someone did that in real life and they lived, that's pretty like, how does your body keep going?
I don't know, but I'm sure all the members of Fleetwood Mac were the exact same way.
Oh yeah, and many more 70s bands.
Yeah.
But, and 80s. But, anyway, so that's where we're at. We just finished page 76. We're on
disclaimer.
The first section. It says literally first. But it's not the first section. It's just called first.
I'm hoping Daisy's back in this section. And I love Simone so much. I think she's hilarious. One thing I will say, a little disclaimer. We start off this clip saying we're on page 48. Camera battery died.
So we read.
This is further than page 48.
Yeah, we're on page
None of this
76
happened in page.
We were protected while that battery was charging.
Oh yeah.
We were just going to sit here idly. No. We were going to read.
So, what are your thoughts so far overall?
Okay, so obviously music is life. So I love the musical incorporations, the band. I love that Karen's a keyboard player, you know, my girl Karen.
Even though her name is horrible.
Even though her name is Karen. She's not a Karen. No. She's not. She's a cool Karen. It's hard to say, like, it's almost like saying whether or not you like someone's memoir, because that's what this feels like. So I know they're not real, so I guess I can judge what actually happened, and it's not like someone's real life. So I'll just say I like elements of it. Billy's disappointed me.
I feel like you don't have to be proud of the characters to like a book,
that's
though.
true. It's very interesting, I will say that. The concept of the dialogue, interview, writing, I mean, this is like...
It's like a screenplay.
It's like reading oral history, basically. Like, it is very unique. I don't feel like there's anything that's been done similar to this that I know of.
I feel like if you were to write a book, it would be like this.
Me?
Pick your favorite band, recreate it. It's very you.
Yeah, it'd be like 21 Pilots. Dialogue.
That's not as cool, no offense. It's not as interesting.
I don't know. It would be cool to read, like if someone took the Beatles, for example, as like a, we're going to base this book off of them, but then do it in the same format. That would be interesting.
That reminds me of That Thing You Do. No.
Yes. And
Great
this book
movie.
kind of reminded me, like, there were elements of it, too, that remind me of that movie, too, That Thing You Do. Such a classic. Anyways, those are my initial thoughts. I can't say if I like it or don't like it just yet.
Okay. We were like a third of the way through.
Yeah.
Almost, but...
So, there are lots of opinions to be formed yet.
Fair.
So, yeah.
We'll
check in later.
Look, tasty and wasty. I wish we were.
Alright. We're back.
Again.
And our matching unplanned
Oklahoma
outfits.
shirts. Like, this is not the first time this has happened. Also, it is not the next day, unfortunately.
A lot has happened in our lives this week. A lot of unplanned...
Which would probably be more entertaining than this video.
Yeah. Our house is a hot mess. It looks like a construction site because it is.
One day, it'll be like, oh, we're so aesthetic. We're making coffee. It's the next day. We can talk to you more than once a day. But right now, every time we try to film a vlog, it's like something has to go wrong in our lives.
Which is kind of like the story of our life living in Washington. So
we're not trying to be like dramatic. Like, we literally haven't been able to read.
I didn't read it all yesterday. Not one page.
I read 20. Which isn't great.
Anyways, we just got home from our long day at our homeschool co-op. I was able to read for about an hour there.
You're already ahead. You're ahead of me.
So I'm on page 126.
I'm on page 95.
Okay, well you read this before, so you already know. Okay, so
mostly.
I think in where we ended last, we were saying we hope Daisy re-enters the chat room.
And instantly
she did, so that's good. So let's see, what's happened since we last updated?
To start off, we kind of finish with, Daisy's not wanting to release music. We end also with Billy finally meeting his kid after finishing rehab. So
Daisy is under a record contract, but she's not wanting to record music because they won't let her record her songs.
So we end in 1975. And this little bit, our next part, is before that because we're talking about Daisy. And in this, Teddy Price, the Six's manager, is kind of trying to persuade Daisy, who is also under the Six's record label. They're in the same record company, whatever. He's like, you have to fulfill your contract or you're going to be sued. Like, this is not good.
They're going to take your home. And she's like, I don't care. I'll live in a cardboard box. I'm not recording something that isn't mine.
And he's like,
I'm an artist.
I thought this was hilarious. He said, Daisy, someone who insists on the perfect conditions to make art isn't an artist, they're an a-hole. And I was like, this is funny because even though, like, she hasn't had the best life. She's always been given things instead of earning them because her parents are famous.
Yeah, she's a wealthy
So
family.
and she's pretty, like, she just gets whatever she wants. In that time period, like, your looks really did matter a lot.
And she uses that to her advantage. She knows how.
Yeah. And so he's like, you have really good lyrics, but none of them are finished. So then she, like, dedicates her time to making songs. She puts out an album.
Finishing them.
Yeah. Making full songs. And then she presents them to the company. She puts out an album. It does relatively well.
But the album that she puts out is still not her songs. It's their songs. Because then she talks about how she's going to finish that one song, The Fly Home. That's going to be her first song to complete when she's on tour with the Six.
I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah.
You're ahead of me.
Okay. So it is. I'm 99% sure that she goes ahead and does the album their way. Like, because it talks about how she does push back a little bit on the style of how she sings things, but they're still not her songs.
Oh, yes, I see now.
So she's like, she gives in, she puts her big girl panties on, she fulfills her duty under her record contract to put out an album so she doesn't get sued and be in breach of contract and all of that. But then it, like, makes her determined to actually finish the songs that she started.
And then we switch to the Sixes, and they're about to release their album called 789. Okay, Daisy's album was first. These are just very creative names, let me tell you.
Numerical.
Anyways, so they're like, the Six now are presenting their new album, 789, to the record company, and the guy's like, this isn't gonna cut it. Like, there isn't a lead single on this album.
There's not one song that could be a hit.
Yeah, it's not standing out. It's not better than what you created last, and you need to always strive to be the best.
And to get number one.
Yeah, and so Teddy is like, I think you should bring a feature on the album, make the song Honeycomb a duet. And Honeycomb is the song that Billy wrote about the life he wants to give his wife.
His promises to her.
Move to one of the Carolinas, have a farmhouse, yada yada.
Lots of kids.
So, of course, he throws a fit about it because he's super dramatic.
He's like, this is my song. I want it done my way.
And his brother is like...
I want it to be a duet. It
Why?
doesn't need to be a duet.
So, Teddy starts listing all these people, and he's like, who's that? No, no, no. Absolutely not. And then he says Daisy, and he's like, who's Daisy Jones? And so...
Teddy wanted him to be interested
he's like,
in Daisy
oh,
Jones.
This is the one.
Let me tell you who Daisy Jones is. So
then Graham backs Teddy up. He's like, oh, I know who she is. She's so pretty. She's so cool. Graham just loves his ladies, okay? Especially Karen. He wants Karen so bad, and she just doesn't care. Right now.
Yet.
And Teddy's just talking up Daisy, and Billy doesn't care, but eventually he agrees. So Daisy comes into the studio. She's like, I really love this song. I was listening to it nonstop. It's so great. But then she changes the lyrics because it's like...
Billy makes what would be the female part, like, answering the things he promises. He makes them to be, like, statements, and Daisy changes them to questions.
So she's like...
Will you do this? Will you... Like, she is kind of, like, making the promises seem like she isn't sure he's going to follow through with them, and he doesn't like that.
Yeah, so he literally interrupts her recording session. Is like, there's no point in you singing if you're seeing their words wrong. And Graham is like, I cannot believe you just did that. He would throw a fit if anyone else did that. Like, what is going on?
That's kind of like Billy's whole MO. So, like, he does things to other people that he would be so pissed if someone did to him.
Yep. And
I do not like that.
And
that's what we call a hypocrite.
Yeah. And then he goes home to Camilla, and she's like, it's just a song. Like, get over it.
Like, it doesn't have to be your real life.
She
like,
says,
just because she sings it that way doesn't mean it's true.
She says, when you put your life in your music, you can't be clear-headed about your music. Like, you can't control what your entire band does if you're putting your life into your music when it's their music, too. And so the part ends on them releasing the song, and that's where I stopped reading.
Okay. What page was that?
95. So then it's the Numbers tour.
Okay,
because
so...
the album is called 789.
Okay, so then turns out their record label is like, Honeycomb was a success, so we're going to have Daisy Jones be your headliner. So she's going to open for them on tour. So Billy does say something rather like level-headed for once, and he's like, we've been openers of bands before, and I wanted to be included in things and treated, you know, like I mattered, so I'm going to do the same for her. So he tries to include her to make her feel like she's a part of the tour and everything like that. So let's see what happens in this section. The thing that stood out to me the most, well, two things. Two major things happen, really. So first of all, Daisy is now in a relationship with her manager. Like, they're in a relationship. Not like they're friends. Like, they're together. Which is... Romantically, yes. Which is a terrible idea because he controls her whole life, basically. Her money, her touring. Like, he dictates her schedule. And so she kind of, like, starts realizing that that's a bad idea. And she breaks up with him and fires him. So it's like, not only do I not want to be with you, but, like, I'm done with you being my manager. And she decides to have the Six's manager, Teddy.
I think.
Yeah. That's his name, right?
I think that's... I'm a little confused on everyone's role because there's, like, multiple producers.
Whatever his name is, their manager become her manager because she sees how, like, he has their best interest at heart. He looks out for them, all of the kinds of things that, you know, would be good attributes in a manager. So that happens, and then her manager, whose name is Hank, I think, which, like, okay. He gets, like, really upset, almost is, like, threatening her physically, and then he decides to leave, walks out of the room, and he sees Billy in the hall, and Billy basically, like, gives him a look like, you better not take this. Yeah, you take this further. Like, he didn't say that, but, like, his body language communicated it. And then for the first time, Billy kind of, like, lets his guard down and goes and checks on Daisy. It's, like, the first real kindness that he's shown her. And she's like, I've never seen him let his wall down. I only see him, you know, as kind of, like, a callous person. So that was kind of, like, eye-opening for her. Well, also what happens is Karen kind of starts recognizing she might have some feelings for Graham, and so she literally calls him up in the hotel, like, from her room, and is like, why haven't you ever pursued me? Like, she just straight up asked him, and he's like, I'm not gonna take shots I know I'll miss. And she's like, try. So he, like, hangs up the phone and runs to her room. 3 seconds later, he's knocking on her door, and he's like, what are you saying? And so she's like, I'm saying, like, try. So then he does, and they do. And then, so because Hank has been fired, and he's throwing a little fit about it, he takes Daisy's whole band with him. And she's supposed to give like, they're at a concert about to perform, and she has no band. So she's like, what am I gonna do? I can't just, like, go out there and sing the whole thing a cappella. So, the Six's guitar player goes out there with her. They sing, like, a few things acoustically. And then she's like, just play a beat. Just, like, play a random beat for me. Because she wanted to debut her first song that she has written, which is, like, something fly away home, or something like that.
It's very
I can't remember.
Birds and...
No, I can't remember. Anyways, So it doesn't really work, like they can't get their dynamic quite right. So then she ends up just singing it a cappella, and I think like because she did that and she was like so bold in her decision and it really showcased her talent, Billy's like now seeing her through different eyes, like realizing, wow, she is really talented, like she has a mesmerizing presence, she's great on the stage, like she's flying by the seat of her pants and like coming out winning. And so he decides to go, like, throw her a bone and be like, hey, do you guys want to hear Daisy and I sing Honeycomb? And he takes the guitar from his guitar player, which really makes him mad because the guitar player is like, I'm the guitar player, but what am I going to do? Not let him take my guitar.
Is it Warren?
No, Warren's the drummer. Eddie. And so they sing Honeycomb acoustically a little bit differently than they recorded it, like more intimately, and the crowd just like loves it. They are like feeling the chemistry, like they just have this great dynamic together. Then Billy calls the rest of the band out, and Daisy ends up singing that whole concert with them. Like she sings harmony on all of the songs. That goes really well. And then afterwards, we see Eddie and Billy kind of getting into it because Eddie's like, I'm done with him. I'm done with his attitude. He thinks like he's the boss of everyone. He can tell us what to do. Like we have to meet his demands, and it's not like a team situation. So that's where I left off. Okay. So now I think we're going to see, I don't know because I haven't read this, but you can tell me. Now I think they're like, oh man, like she really adds a lot of value to our songs, like their dynamic, their chemistry, and I think that's how she's going to become part of their band. That's where we're at. We'll check back in later. Do not think you should like be a little more in front of the... Well, I guess not.
I was trying to make it less plain, but...
Well, yeah, that's what I was meaning. Okay.
My first bookmark.
Oh.
My second bookmark.
My first bookmark is my finger.
Thank you, getting it off.
Okay. Is it going?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, a lot has happened because we've kind of read a lot, almost 100 pages. Well,
yeah,
pretty close. And a lot has happened in that span of time. So, where do we begin?
The beginning.
So, Daisy has just performed her first full show with the Six. The Rolling Stones guy was there. He wrote an article about their performance, and he was like, the headline said,
the six that should be seven.
The six that should be seven, yeah. Meaning.
So, of course, Billy was like, how dare he? How dare he say that after he sees, like, one of our performances, yada yada. Which, whatever. And then Rod, the producer, or the manager of both of them, it's not Teddy. Teddy's the producer. Rod is the manager. This is very confusing to me. Because they're all so close together also. Like, they're always all together. But Rod was like, I mean, I agree. Like, it'd be good for you. You should at least do an album.
Basically, like, if you're going to get to the top, she's what's going to get you there.
Yeah.
Which I'm sure was very humbling. Not like he was a real person, but it was very humbling for him to hear. Because Billy is very prideful. Yeah. And he thinks he's the best, and his ways are the best. And no one is as good as him.
No. So then Billy talks to everyone on their plane ride home from, I believe...
Well, not everyone.
No, he forgets Eddie. And at this point, Eddie was, like, pissed because Billy took his guitar and Eddie's a baby, okay? Eddie, like, thinks he's the front man.
So Billy talks to everyone in the band but Eddie, and they're all like, yeah, obviously we think she should be a member of the band. Like, let's just try it. So they ask her. She says yes, obviously. And then Eddie finds out, and he's like, yeah, they asked everyone but me. So now she's an official member of the band. So they're like, what are we going to call the band? Obviously, it's going to be Daisy Jones and the Six, because she is, like, what's going to get people there, basically.
Yeah.
And Billy actually doesn't really fight that. Like,
no, because he thinks it's not like the 7, they can easily remove her after the first album.
So if you take away the Daisy Jones, it'll still be the 6.
So he thinks that still gives him a way to be separated from her. And then the day she shows up in the studio, like after their break to start the new album,
Daisy is like,
yeah,
this isn't gonna be just a Billy thing. Like, I'm gonna have equal say, I'm gonna have equal songwriting opportunities, and then everyone else is like, while we're at it, Karen's like, I want to do more on the keyboard, and I want to do this, and then the bass player's like, I want to write my own bass lines, and then Eddie's like, I want to do my own riffs. So she kind of like opens up this door for everyone to just run through, and Billy's like, oh my god, what have I got myself into? Sure, yeah, you can do it.
And then they just take them off at the end.
Yeah. But then, so, like, is it the producer that says, like, Billy and Daisy need to go away and start working on songs together? But instead, like, he comes with his notebook and she comes with her notebook, and they're like, I have songs. And she's like, I have songs. And so then they kind of have to just, like, realize that if they're truly going to be, like, a partnership in songwriting, then they need to write songs together. So that's what they do, except Billy is very adamant about including this song, Aurora. And one thing that Daisy does that's a little harsh, but it was true, like, every single song at this point that Billy is writing is about Camilla. And she's like, you can't keep just making, like, the same story in a different song. Like, same story, different font, basically. And so, like, as hard as that was for him to hear, I think he needed to hear it because it made him kind of be...
He still wrote about Camilla, but it wasn't just love songs.
Yeah, it was a little more discreet.
And just, like, kind of darker, like, more of his fears than, like, what he was telling himself was true. Yeah. I feel like, which Daisy definitely helped with, because she's just a mess.
Yeah, and she, at this point, too, like, her drug addiction is getting worse and worse. Like, she thinks she's hiding it from everybody and she's doing a good job, but she's not.
Everyone's like, Rod especially, he's like, I don't know what to do. I've never known, like, what is too much? Is it my right to tell them to stop? Like,
do I need to keep tabs on them?
Yeah, and then he's like, I kind of regret not doing that. Because, you know, this entire book takes place after all of these things because they're just recounting the band's journey. So, moving along, they just, you know, work on recording the album. Everyone kind of comes up with their own stuff, and if Billy doesn't like it, he just, like, gives them simple notes, and he's like, you know what, me and Teddy will work on things later if it, you know, isn't that great.
Karen and Graham are still in a relationship, but they're not letting anyone know they're in a relationship still, so they're, like, 100% in a relationship, but they're pretending not to be.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
like
not the healthiest.
Billy doesn't even know.
Yeah. And Graham is his brother. He doesn't even know what's going on. Let's see. What about when Daisy is supposed to go record?
Oh, yes. So there's this day. She's supposed to show back up to the studio at like 9 o'clock at night after the band's left just to work on vocals with Billy because they record vocals together. Like, they don't each record and mix them with each other. They record at the same time on the same mic together.
Which makes things more complicated for the producers and the engineers because, like, they can't go back and, like, take her out a little bit without taking him out a little bit, or vice versa, because they're literally in the same microphone. So, but they were, like, very insistent on doing that. And the producer was like, I can't think of any way to describe that other than just very intimate. Like, it's like, in the album, you can feel that they're breathing the same air. He literally says that. So, yeah, that makes it interesting. But I go ahead and say about Daisy and her.
Anyway, she was supposed to show up. She didn't. She throws like a small party. Mick Riva shows up, who is in Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, Malibu Rising. And I'm guessing he makes an appearance in Carrie Soto because he's in everything, but who knows. So he shows up, he's a rock star, and just brings all these people, invites all these people. Simone shows up, and she's like, what is happening?
And they're like, good. Billy and
Teddy.
They're Rod. It's Rod. Rod is...
Oh, yes.
Yeah, Billy and Rod are waiting for Daisy at the studio, and it's been like an hour, and they're like, well, that's normal. She's never on time. So, like, they keep waiting, and Rod is like, maybe we should go check on her. So they go, they ask for her alias name, which is like
something
Lola. I don't know. It's something outlandish. And then they see her like in this, she puts on a dress that she had been gifted, which was like very expensive. And she gets in the pool with it, and they walk up to the pool, and she's just, like, sitting there in this soaking wet dress. She walks over glass, and her feet start bleeding, and she doesn't even realize because she's so, like, stoned out of her mind. She doesn't even, like, have any awareness that she's bleeding, and Billy is just, like, in his mind, I can't be here. This is going to put me in, like, a difficult situation where I could be led to make bad choices, so he just leaves.
And then she's embarrassed. Later on, after she wakes up, she realizes what happened. So she goes to the studio the next morning. Billy and her kind of have it out because Karen's always like, they always argue and think no one can hear them, but everyone can hear them screaming at each other outside.
Like, I don't know if this has happened yet. I feel like it has, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but like Daisy keeps writing these songs, and she, like, you know that she's writing them about Billy, like, you know.
Yeah.
But he doesn't know. Like, he just thinks she's being creative and like super lyrical and like in her feels, and maybe she's like in relationships with other people that he doesn't know about, but they're all about him. And he just doesn't get it.
Yeah, and then he'll be like,
yeah, I like it. That's really good. And it's like literally
and then she's
about
like,
him.
oh my gosh, that meant a lot for him to say that. And I'm like, you're mad because he's writing songs about his wife. Get the hint. Like,
yeah. It's just very, like, it's a very toxic situation for sure. And then she's like continuing to write these songs for him, and then we lead up to where we just left off, right? There's anything else?
I mean, not really.
Karen
it feels like kind of convicted because she's kind of leading Graham on. Graham, like, is talking to his mom about Karen and like how much he loves her.
Potentially.
And she just doesn't.
Also, one thing that was sad was Graham wrote a song about Karen and about them living in like the dumpy house that the whole band lived in when they first became a band, and he like pitches it to Billy to be on the album, and Billy's just like, no man, we're good. We got everything we need, maybe next time.
So he sells the song the same day.
And he sells the song, and then Karen's like glad that he sells the song because she knows that it's written about her, and she says, I didn't want to sing that every night.
Which is sad in itself. That, like, she doesn't even feel that way for him.
It's
and it's like she can't even help it. She doesn't want to
likes him, but she doesn't want to think about a future with him. Or at all, really. So, but anyways, that's kind of a sidebar. But what recently happened is Billy and Daisy are working on a song, right?
Mm-hmm.
And she says something like, I like writing songs with you. Or maybe he says that first. I can't remember. But anyways, Daisy ends up trying to kiss Billy. He tells her, I can't. And she gets incredibly embarrassed and hurt because I feel like in her heart, she's thought, well, he's like feeling the same way about me. And I feel like she even convinces herself that the songs that he's writing now are also about her.
Yeah,
but
which
they're
is
not.
so weird because there's like scenes of her playing with his kids, but then she like wants him to be with her. It's so weird. Like, she loves Camilla. It just,
but I think
makes
she's
sense.
just convinced herself that, oh, like, I feel this way about him. He feels this way about me. I can tell by the songs that he's writing now. And so she, like, makes a move and gets shot down. And then she's just, like, doesn't know what to do with herself. Probably because she's never been told no in her whole life. And so she just kind of, like, runs away. And then Billy goes home to Camilla, and he's like, if you could go anywhere in the world, if we could just, or not in the world, but, like, if we could pack up the car right now and go somewhere, where do you want to go? And she's like, Disneyland! So they drive on over to Disneyland and take
then
the kids.
Daisy goes and writes a song, which is called Regret Me. And that was actually the first single they released.
For the show?
Yeah, for the show, and it's so good. And I just listened to Honeycomb today for the first time. I hadn't listened to it yet for some reason. It's so weird that, like...
It's actually a song.
Yeah, because I remember when I read this book, so I, like, looked them up on Spotify, and I'm like, are we sure? Am I missing something? Like, are we sure they aren't out yet?
Or you just become convinced that they've already been songs from, like... the 70s, years ago.
And it's just so good.
So let's talk about our thoughts. This is your second time reading it. It's my first time. I will say I'm enjoying it. Like,
it's a weird type
I'm
of enjoyment.
enjoying the creativity for sure. Like, you can't say anything negative about the creativity that it took to make all of this up. I mean, it's just so incredible that it seems so real.
You have to read Malibu Rising next. Like, you just have to.
But I will say, there's probably only one character that I really like, and that's Graham, because he's, like, the most wholesome, and everyone else is just selfish and self-centered, and I don't know, like, even Billy, even though he's, like, trying to go on this path of redemption and do things right by Camilla, which I do admire, I feel like he's still just very self-centered. Like, he can't see past anyone else's needs but his own, except maybe Camilla's. But as far as, like, being a team player, he is not a team player, and I don't like that about him at all.
I don't really like the characters, but I don't think I ever have. But to me, that's not what makes me like the book as far as this type of genre. Because it is almost like a memoir. It feels like. It's just... how do you even explain this to someone and convince them that it's good?
A very incredible talent of an author to be able to write a story about characters that she knows aren't going to be likable, but you still are very, like, into this book. You're like committed.
Almost attached to them because you want them to be better.
Yeah.
And so you almost have also sympathy for some characters, even if you don't like them, because you just want them to, like, break through all their struggles, even if they're annoying or stupid.
Yeah.
And, okay, well, the fact that she not only created these characters, was able to write a book in this format, was able to write this book, period, get the timeline so good, and the time period. For something that pretty much has no plot, be so famous also.
Yeah.
Then write songs for it. Then make a show for it. Then have those songs be real. Like, this is just... It's everything. It's insane.
So, I'm trying to see how many pages we have left. We have
about 100.
So, when we check in next, we will be finished for sure. And we will give our final thoughts and my judgment, because Emmalyn's are.
I mean, it's gonna be another 5-star. This is my kind of reality TV show. Like, I don't care about The Bachelor or anything like that. Like, give me music any day, and I will watch it. I would watch any documentary on old artists, even if I don't like them. They always have interesting stories, especially like childhood.
Yeah.
That definitely made them into who they are. And just the creativity.
Yep. Okay. Those are our second to last final thoughts.
I want to watch you finish this book because I just remembered the ending. We always match.
I don't know. It's not ever on purpose. We just are the same person. It's fine. Okay, we're done.
We were kind of dumb for the last 100 pages, not doing any recaps or updates in between. So I got a little
timeline
list here.
But first, we forgot to mention in our last check-in that where we left off literally ends with Billy trying to get Daisy out of the band. He was mad or uncomfortable or both that she tried to.
I think he was
come on to him.
Also worried.
Yeah.
Of what he would do. Then, as we mentioned, Daisy writes the song at the beach after she tries to kiss Billy. It's called Regret Me. So she brings it into the studio the next day. The same day Billy's trying to get her kicked out. She's like, Billy, read this song. I want us to record the song. He's like, no, absolutely not. She's like, why? This isn't about you. It's really good. You know you like it. I'll give you 5 reasons why we should record it. So she does, and he's like, but I said no. So she brings everyone else into a room and plays it for them and has them
she
vote.
doesn't play it. She just sings a cappella.
Yeah. Well, she sings it, and they all say yes, it should be on the album. So he's also really salty about that because he was undermined.
Well, everyone chose the opposite of what he wanted. So
then they record the entire thing that day without him because he literally just leaves. So then we move on to the album cover shoot. Of course, Eddie throws a big fit because he's not on the cover because...
No, I thought they were.
They're on the back cover from what I understood.
Oh, okay.
So he's mad because it's about Billy and Daisy, and everyone's like, I mean, of course it is. No one else really cares at this point because they predicted.
They didn't try to make the cover about them, though. No. It was the photographer. So, the photographer sensed that there was, tension between them. So, basically, he, looked for opportunities for them to be looking at each other or, paying each other attention because there was this obvious tension. So it's whenever they were actually paying each other attention, he would take the pictures, and so that's what ended up being on the cover.
Yeah. But of course, everyone's annoyed slightly, but not enough to care because it's not like Billy made him do it. But Eddie is just it's always about them.
Well,
quit already.
They say something we all knew that Billy and Daisy thought they were the center of attention, and that album cover proved it. So, yeah, I mean, it worked out for their favor.
Mm-hmm. Okay, then we're just rapid fire, okay? Eddie finds out Karen and Grandma are together. He keeps it a secret. Still nobody knows they're together. Then Daisy takes a break.
A vacation.
Where does she go?
She went to Thailand.
Thailand. And she meets this Italian guy.
Named Nicky. What good could come out of that? And he says he's an Italian prince.
Then they fly out to Florence, Italy. And
he's
Simone,
like, I want to show you my country.
Yeah, but Simone is on her way to be on vacation with Daisy, and Daisy just doesn't even tell her
that she's going
that
to
she's
Italy.
leaving. So then they go from Florence to Rome. They get married. Simone is mad. She doesn't like Nicky, and she just doesn't have a good feeling about him. He's like more high and just
he's bad for her. He
drugs.
Encourages all of her bad behaviors.
And just like tries to convince her to not go to band practice or tour rehearsals, like any of these things. So then Daisy won't come back, and Simone like gives her this long speech, and she's like, you're leaving right now. We're getting you on a plane. You have to go. Because everyone's like waiting on her. Nobody
can't do anything.
knows where she is or what happened. And she shows up with like her hair in a cut into a bob,
her
a
big
ring on her
diamond
finger.
ring. She's like, I married a prince. What's the problem?
And like Warren or someone is like, really? And she's like, there's no monarchy, but it's fine.
Yeah, there's no monarchy in Italy anymore, but he's still a prince. Yeah. And turns out he was the son of a prince. So, like, I don't know. I guess he's just going around telling everyone he's a prince.
Yeah. And then, like, while everyone was on break, Teddy and Billy were, like, going back through, editing all the songs. And
Changing
Billy
everything.
changed, like, everything. Everyone is mad at Billy because he would just completely take out keys.
Yeah, they have, like...
He changed the riffs.
They have a listening party, basically, and everyone's like, this is not the album we recorded.
But it's in front of, like, the guy at the recording...
label.
Yeah. So they can't, like, say anything because
he
the guy
loves
loves it. So they're just like, okay, here we are again.
Where we're at, yeah. This is what we have to work with.
And then, after that, the Rolling Stone guy comes again.
His name is Jonah.
Yeah, Jonah comes.
Who was the one that said why the 6 should be the 7.
Mm-hmm.
And now they are. So he's like, am I going to come and interview them and be proven that I was right or be proven that I was wrong?
That would be embarrassing, right? So, Billy decides, no, I told Camilla I'd go home early today. We're going to reschedule it. So then he has, like, interviews with everyone else, and then he just is waiting to have one with Billy. So he has one with Graham and Karen. Graham says they're together. Karen says they're not. I don't even remember anything about
Anybody else?
Anybody else except Daisy is like,
I'll go with you.
Yeah, I'll tell you, because she's still mad at Billy because he didn't cheat on his wife.
With her. Because he didn't choose her.
Yeah.
And everyone else. Because he didn't say yes to her. And everyone else in her life has always said yes to her.
And so she decides to tell the Rolling Stones guy, Jonah, all about Billy's rehab, how he cheated on his wife.
Missed his daughter's birth.
All these kinds of things. And instantly regrets it. But she's too petty to take it back.
But she can't because she said she would go on record.
Yeah. So then the next day, Billy's like, okay, I'll go find Daisy and we can do our interview. And Jonah's like, no, I already did Daisy. We'll just do you. And he's like, oh no. She must have done something good for him not to want to do it together.
And he, tell she was acting guilty.
So then, Jonah's like, here's everything she told me. And Billy's like, please don't share that. Don't put my family in that position. He's like, only if you give me something better. So Billy goes on to say how much he hates Daisy.
Yeah, he was like, here's something to write about. I hate Daisy Jones.
And she doesn't deserve the talent she has.
She's been given everything in life. Which is
Just
basically true. I mean,
yeah,
to some degree.
And then, what's after that? Okay. Then Daisy leaves Nicky because she's drugged out of her mind, wakes up in the shower, like soaked, with him standing over her, and she's like, what happened? Did I, like, overdose in the shower? What's going on? And he's like, I thought you were dead, so I put you in the shower. And she's like, I gotta go.
Yeah. She's like, why don't you go take a nap? You look really tired. And
so then he just passes out.
He does, and she packs up her crap and leaves and says at the concierge desk, tell Nikki that Lola De La Roe or whatever wants a divorce. So
because she's like, he's never paid for anything. He wouldn't let me not do drugs.
I don't think he had any money.
Yeah, but like at this point, they're on tour now, and there was a moment when he was like trying to get her to do heroin or something, and she like wouldn't do it. So he like shoved it up her nose. And Billy saw the whole thing, so then it made her feel bad.
But it was pretty funny. She comes into the studio the next day, like, after she leaves the message saying she wants a divorce, and Warren, I think, is like, where's Nikki? And she's like, that period of my life is over. Like,
we're done. Yeah. I moved on.
That phase is over.
I think Warren is hilarious, and he never did anything wrong.
Yeah, he's the most, like... not most normal, but...
I like Graham, and I love Camilla.
Okay, anyways.
Okay, then Daisy Jones and the Six go to the Grammys. Daisy accepts the award and does the speech for Record of the Year for Turn It Off, which was like their lead single on their new album, Aurora. And she has this whole speech, and then she's like, this is for everyone who's hung up on something or somebody. And then the next line is just like Camilla repeating that, and that's like one of the last things she says in the book.
Yeah. Like she realized, like, the thing she's hung up on is her husband.
And the someone.
Oh, so, then they go on Saturday Night Live.
And it's very intense. They perform Turn It Off again, and then they were going to perform their other song on the, like, charts, and I think it was called This Could Get Ugly. I think it was that one. And then Billy's like, no, me and Daisy are going to perform A Hope Like You by ourselves. Kicks Karen off the keys.
So he plays the piano. And they just the two of them.
And then he's like, crap, Camilla just saw the whole thing.
Yeah, and they're like staring into each other's eyes, seeing their souls out, bearing their souls before the world and his wife.
So then, later that night, I believe, Daisy shows up to his hotel room, and she's like, can you please help me get sober? Like, talks about how she realized she wanted to die, and so she was like, I have to get clean now. So he's saying he's going to help her, and, like, right at that point, he finds out Teddy Price, the producer, died, who has helped him write all of his songs.
Who has been, like, a father figure to him, and he's, like, basically looked to him for approval in everything. Like, if he gives him validation, it's, like, the same as if a father was validating him, so... He takes it very, very badly.
So then they go back to California, kind of take a break. Somewhere in here, I can't remember exactly where, Pete decides to get married to his girlfriend. He's going to leave the band.
Jenny.
Eddie tries to talk him out of it, and he's like, nah, I never said this was forever. And I don't know why Eddie even cares.
Which I didn't realize Pete and Eddie are brothers.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, like, at the beginning of the book.
But I don't know why Eddie hasn't left yet. Like, all he does is complain.
Yep.
And then he's mad that his brother's leaving. It makes no sense. So then Camilla's like, Billy, can you go clean this for me? And she's like, comes back, she's like, what are you doing? And he's like, I'm cleaning the toilet. And she's like, it's been 45 minutes. And then they go back on the road. She's like, you guys have to go. Like, your grief is literally going to kill you. You need to start working again. So they go back on the road. First show, there's a bunch of people in the crowd begging for them to play Honeycomb. So, Billy kicks everyone off the stage. I'm pretty sure. And they perform Honeycomb. I can't remember if he kicked everyone off, but I know he was, like, sharing a mic with Daisy. At this point, Camilla and Julia, his daughter, are
twins.
there. They're on the side of the stage watching this performance. And he realizes, like, at that point, that he can't be around Daisy anymore. Like, he knows he would never leave his wife for her, but he knows she'd cause him to make a lot of bad decisions that he would regret because of her influence. And she's just, like, a very infatuating person for some reason. Everyone is, like, obsessed with her, even though nobody truly likes her.
Yeah, it's like
she's just fascinating.
they like her, but they know she makes bad choices. But it's like they let her be influential, even though she is a bad influence. Like,
it makes
she's
sense.
just a very contradicting person. Contradictory.
Hypocritical.
Yeah.
So then Billy just leaves after that performance.
And wants to be alone.
Yeah. And then Graham and Karen get into a fight. They break up. And Billy is going to the bar. This is like his first time drinking since rehab. And Graham's trying to talk to him because he's really upset about breaking up with Karen. And Billy's like, I'm too busy. Like, not right now. And and Graham's like, I've done everything for you in life, and you can't even talk to me for 5 minutes. And he's like, no, go away. So then Billy goes to get a drink. Then we pan to Daisy, who is just walking around the hotel, crying herself around. She can't even remember what she's been doing since the concert ended. And she runs into...
Okay. Daisy is in a state, and she can't figure out how to get her hotel door open. And so she hears a little girl's voice, and then here comes Camilla with Julia. And so Camilla's like, what are you doing? Let me help you. So she takes her in her room and gets her situated and gets her some water, and then some stuff goes down.
Camilla is just amazing. Like, she does not care what anyone thinks, but she's still, like, not a prideful person. I don't know how to explain it.
She speaks truth.
She's just like a mom.
She speaks truth in I wouldn't say a kind way, but just in a very real way.
She has everyone's best interest at heart.
Yeah.
And so, it's like, she doesn't do it to be mean.
So, do you want to talk about her conversation with Daisy?
Well, she basically is like, I know he loves you, but he will never leave me. And so you have to leave. Because I'm not letting him leave. And if you're trying to get him to crack, you're going to be the one to leave. Yada yada. She just is like, the end of the conversation ends with Camilla being like, I hope I never see you again.
But she, like...
she told her, she was like...
She wishes her the best. She's like, I want the best for you. I want you to get sober. I want you to do things with your life. I think you're super talented. And she even tells her that her song...
I Hope Like You.
I Hope Like You is her favorite song of all time. Like, not just her favorite song from their album, but literally her favorite song of all time. So she says a lot of truthful things, but she also, like, affirms Daisy, which I don't feel like anyone has ever really done.
No.
Like, taken the time to truly care about her in a way that is for her best interest.
I think everyone just kind of avoids her.
It's like they want to, like, have fun with her, but no one wants to, like, really have her best interest at heart. And so I think Daisy was very, like, taken aback by her affirming her with truth. So, yeah, she leaves and she's like, I wish you the best, but at the same time, I hope I never see you again. So, then we have it kind of just unraveling from there. Everyone is...
Also, we have a moment where it says author, because this is an interview format, so it will say their name, whatever they said. So we have a moment where it's revealed that Julia, Billy's daughter, is the writer of this book. And I think that's just
So
perfect.
she inserts some of her memory from that night when Camilla is talking to Daisy because she was there. So she, like, basically says, yes, this did happen. I was there. This isn't just, like, Daisy making this up to, like, make herself sound good or make my mom sound good or whatever. Like, this is actually what happened. But then from there, basically everything starts unraveling. Daisy leaves. Karen and Graham can't stand to be in the same room, and they're like, we can't recover from this. And then Billy's like,
I'm done.
I'm done. I'm not just choosing my family over the band, which it is a part of it, but I also know that, like, I can't write or produce without Teddy, and I can't write a great album without Daisy. So he's like, this is where it ends.
And it does.
It does.
It ends in a really weird spot, but it makes it feel very real for how it ends, because you almost aren't satisfied.
Mm-hmm.
And it just
there's not really resolution, I would say. It's just like
it's what it is.
It's like when you end a song on the piano unresolved and you're like, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
You want it to be resolved, but it, like, because it isn't, it leaves you wanting more.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And now I have the show to relive it all again.
Yeah.
And the music to relive it all again. And now I'm going to go make my mom watch. They just released the first 2 minutes of the first episode.
Mm.
And it kind of spoils the ending in it.
But I've read the book now, so it doesn't
So now
matter.
I can
She
show
wouldn't
her.
let me watch it until I finish the book. So my final thoughts are, should I say?
Yeah.
Okay, in terms of creativity and originality, I would give this book 5 stars. In terms of enjoyment,
It's kind of painful.
it's hard to say. So I don't know if I'm
feel
gonna...
like it really is like writing a memoir.
Maybe I need to let it sit with me for a little bit. I will say, just full disclosure, there are a lot of things in this book that I don't agree with. There's a lot of immoral things that happen in this book, so just be forewarned. This is the 70s, and they are fully embracing the 70s lifestyle in this book, so take
California,
that with
70s.
for what you will. Yeah.
Everything at the palm of their hands, for sure.
70s rock and roll. Yeah.
It's like you appreciate that Taylor didn't make it seem like something it wasn't. Like, she really... It's hard to read.
It was very raw. For
Yeah,
sure.
I mean, I can't say it enough that I just feel like I was reading about Fleetwood Mac. I have a poster that came with my vinyl of theirs, and it, like, has pictures of them doing drugs on the poster. And I'm like, this is Daisy Jones and the Six right here. It's so funny.
Yeah.
Like, how it's just...
But I am
in
excited to see how the show portrays the book and the characters, and if it stays pretty accurate with the book. And I don't know, maybe we'll
do
a little video analysis of if it was a good portrayal.
I feel like I'm gonna cry a lot, and I don't know why.
Sounds like a you problem.
I think it's just gonna be the music.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Does something to me.
Okay. Well, we hope you enjoyed this probably very long video. If you stuck with it, you're a trooper. And if you like this video, maybe consider subscribing if you aren't already. We would really appreciate it. And we will see you next time. We hope you enjoy Daisy Jones and the Six, the show. And hopefully you can go into watching the show with all of this knowledge without having to read the book.
And then you can compare it. If you've already read it and you're like, I want to see if it's accurate, but I don't have the time to reread it. This is my first time rereading something.
If you read the book, let us know who your favorite character was. I'm curious what other people...
My top 3... I don't know what order. No order. Graham, Camilla, Simone.
I like Teddy, too.
Yeah, he's an honorable mention.
Yeah. And
For sure.
Rod. Rod was the good one.
Yeah, and Warren.
Okay. That's all. See you next time. Bye-bye.